What's up, everybody? Welcome to the StormCast, the world's best podcast. We're live on YouTube and Twitter, bringing you the latest and the greatest news, stories, and updates going on around the world. I hope everyone is having a good week so far. Before we get into today's Stormcast, I want to give a quick sound check, make sure we're sounding good. I do this solo, no production team. And we should be started here. Shout out to everybody joining the chat as we speak. Doesn't want to pop up. It's bad podcasting. A lot of dead air here. Sorry about that, folks. Joining the episode. Yep, sounding good. Alrighty, it's gonna be a great episode today. Episode 36. We're pushing them along. Every episode, dropping new episodes on this beautiful Wednesday. If you haven't already checked out the latest episode 35 dropped last Wednesday. We talked about the Diddy sentencing of 4 years. We talked about Mark Sanchez being arrested, Bad Bunny being selected for the Super Bowl, and a lot more. So if you haven't checked that episode out, after you check this one out, go ahead and get that replay checked out. Great episode. Also, we dropped a new video on the Stormy and Friends channel. We did a Him movie review with Pops. We went to the movie theater and we watched the movie Him, and we did a nice little review for you. So if you haven't checked that episode out yet, that video out yet, great video, go check that out on the Stormy and Friends channel on YouTube. Let's give some quick football season updates. As you know, we're in full swing, about to be week 6 of football season. My Texas Longhorns finally bounced back and caught a W last week versus the Oklahoma Sooners. They're a great game, always a good game. Texas always usually wins that one every year. It doesn't matter who's ranked higher. Texas wasn't ranked this year, and Oklahoma was number 6, but we pulled through. We're looking really good offensively and defensively. Arch Manning starting to look like a great prospect. So yeah, my Longhorns are now 4-2 with Kentucky this Saturday. Kentucky, always a decent rival. SEC matchup. Always a hard, always tough to play an SEC opponent, but I think we got this one. My Raiders also caught a W, so both of my teams caught a W. My Raiders are now sitting at 2-4 with the Kansas City Chiefs coming up on this Sunday, and we all know the Chiefs are always a worthy opponent with Patrick Mahomes and everybody out there in Kansas City. But my Raiders usually have their number 2. We usually pull that one off, a nice little divisional rivalry. So I think we'll pull this one off, hopefully. And if we do, then my Raiders are looking pretty good on the year. All right. As far as fantasy football goes, my league with the boys, I won that one. I'm sitting at 5-1 in that league. Sitting at number 2, right behind another friend who is 5-1. So hopefully he loses so I can get at the top of the league this week. I do have a decent opponent this week, but I think I should pull it off. I'm projected to win by at least 10 points. So that's looking good. All my paid money leagues and my big money leagues, I went 4-4. So we went decent, but I didn't make the best starts this week. A lot of my starters dropped the egg on me, notably Deebo Samuel. Puka Nacua got hurt, unfortunately. I have him in a lot of those leagues. So if we get him back, I think we're we're looking good on the season. Let's get into some of the latest news before our main topics of the episode. All right, so we're gonna get into everything you might have missed this week. And as we pull it up, shout out to everybody who is joining the live, and if you're watching the replay, shout out to you as well. Go ahead and drop a W in that comment section. Let me know how your day is going, and just like that, we're gonna pull up our first little piece of news here before we jump into our main topics of the episode. All right, so this is everything you missed this week. Here's a roundup of the notable news you might have missed this week, covering everything from unbelievable real-life events to major entertainment and climate updates. From a laptop that literally saved a life to staggering streaming budgets, record-breaking crypto crashes, and big moves in Hollywood. Here's the latest. All right, so first up for the latest of everything you might have missed this week, we have a MacBook stops bullet in robbery. A businessman in Brazil survived a robbery after his MacBook blocked a bullet aimed at him while he was fleeing the scene. The shot lodged into his laptop, saving his life and leaving the device with a visible dent from the impact. All right, so if you have a MacBook, you know now that you can use it as body armor. Okay, shout out to the MacBook for saving this man's life. Next up, we have YouTube offers banned creators a return. Okay, so YouTube has launched a second chance program allowing banned creators to rejoin the platform. Only those suspended for over a year will be eligible, marking a rare move to restore accounts under revised policies. Okay, so if you are a creator out there and your YouTube account has been banned for whatever reason, you now may be able to join back on the platform if you haven't already started, dropping content on another platform, which I recommend you be multi-platformed. But this is, good news for people like Sneeko and other people who have been silenced due to their, content. Next up, we have Stranger Things 5 reportedly cost $460 million. So Netflix reportedly spent $460 million on Stranger Things Season 5, making it more expensive than Avengers Endgame. Each episode cost between $50 to $60 million, marking Netflix's biggest budget to date. I couldn't get through the first season of Stranger Things, personally. It was kind of boring and slow to me, but apparently they have audience worth spending $460 million. That is a lot of money. That's more than most, high ticket movies. Okay, so those actors getting paid a lot, huge budget. Next up, we have the crypto market is facing a $19 billion wipeout. Over $19 billion was liquidated from the crypto market in one day, the largest single day loss in history. The crash came as high leverage positions were wiped out following global economic uncertainty. All right, so not looking good for those of us invested in crypto, or those of us who have Bitcoin. I have a little bit of Bitcoin, not a whole Bitcoin. Of course, that's ridiculous to spend 400 or 40,000 plus dollars rather on a non-fungible, piece of, money, currency. So not looking good. We all know that the government has made a recent shutdown. We are technically in a recession. So obviously that's going to affect the crypto market as well, as we are seeing. Next up, we have Drake's UMG lawsuit dismissed. Okay, so a judge has dismissed Drake's lawsuit against Universal Music Group over Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. The court ruled the lyrics were protected as artistic opinion, ending the brief legal dispute. Okay, so Drake tried to sue UMG, and it did not work out in his favor. Okay, so one of the biggest songs of last year, they Not Like Us, had some distasteful lyrics in Drake's opinion. Notably, the lyrics when Kendrick calls him out for being a pedophile, PDF file. So Drake, your lawyers obviously couldn't do enough, unfortunately. Yeah, it's artistic, artistic opinions. Next up, we have Megan Fox joins FNAF2 as Toy Chica. Okay, so Megan Fox has been cast as Toy Chica in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. The sequel expands the hit horror franchise and continues Universal's partnership with Blumhouse for the December 2025 release. I have not seen the movie Five Nights at Freddy's. I did watch a little bit of it, and a lot of previews and things of that nature. It seems to be trippy. I might have to check that out. I might definitely have to check out Five Nights at Freddy's 2 if Megan Fox is going to be in it. Okay. Next up, we have 2025 set to be the second hottest year. Okay. Climate data shows 2025 is on pace to become the second hottest year ever recorded. Scientists link the rise to strong El Nino effects as continued global temperature increases. Okay. How we know this is going to be the second hottest year? Maybe in recorded history, I suppose. The world is heating up. It was a pretty hot summer, I must admit. But it doesn't, seem normal. The temperature is always going to rise and cool. That's just how climate change works. But 2025 is one of the hottest years on record, apparently. Next up. Okay, whoa, there is no next up. That is it for things you missed this week. Next topic, or piece of news, rather, we have for the episode is Donald Trump is declaring that the war is over as Israeli hostages are freed. Okay, so Trump declares Israel-Hamas war is over. Okay, so Hamas released the last 20 living Israeli hostages on Monday under a breakthrough ceasefire that ended 2 years of devastating war in Gaza. Israel's military confirmed the hostages' release, while buses carried dozens of freed Palestinian prisoners to the West Bank and Gaza as part of a deal freeing over 1,900 people. All right, so recently we had Donald Trump even being elected for a Nobel Peace Prize, which many say he should have won. He unfortunately didn't win. I believe he lost to a Venezuelan politician. Okay, so as Donald Trump promised to end war in the Middle East, and he's making it for some of his, for making up for most of his campaign promises. That's a good sign for his presidency, most would say. But there has already been so much destruction and catastrophic bombings, to the Gaza area, that I don't even think this is even really significant, right? Most people have already been displaced. There's a technically a genocide going on in Gaza, and a lot of people have already been murdered, with bombings and things of that nature. But this is it's trending, so we'll talk about it. All right. Let's see what they have to say. Okay, so we have a video here of Hamas releasing the final 20 Israelis.
Let's
It's like they're celebrating here in Israel.
The war is over.
So we have here Trump on Air Force One confirming that the war is over.
Okay, you understand that?
Are you confident that the ceasefire is going to hold?
I think so. I think it's going to hold. Qatar was a tremendous help to get it.
Pause it here. That's a big point right there. Is the ceasefire going to hold? We know that they've already had multiple, points where they've settled the tension, and they both agreed that the war was over. And then next thing you know, Israel bombs, Gaza, or vice versa. So we'll see. We'll see if it actually holds and if this is actually going to be significant.
Getting this done. I hope people can realize that. And it was very tough and very dangerous for Qatar. They were very brave, and their leader, the Emir, was very, very brave. And Qatar should start getting some credit.
Is the war between Israel and Hamas over?
Okay, so Hamas and Israel, always seeming as though they're going to be at war, in my opinion. It's just a war of not only, religion, but of land. One side claims that the land belongs to them, and then the other side says that the land belongs to them. Okay, so we know that war is also known as we are right. Okay, so it's a battle about who is right, and we're seeing a ceasefire apparently. Let's see what else they have on this. Okay, so traders predict a 39% chance that the ceasefire will begin phase 2 before the year ends. Okay, so a lot of people thinking that this ceasefire will be breached by one of the sides, either Israel or Hamas. So here we have the remaining 13 Israeli hostages have now been handed over by Hamas and are en route to Israeli territory. Israeli officials confirmed every one of them is standing on their feet as they make the journey home. The Red Cross facilitated the transfer with IDF teams ready to receive them on arrival. So this is going to be in Arabic, but we can watch and see as the hostages make their way over to Israel.
قطاع غزة للحافلات التي ستقل الأسرى الفلسطينيين الذين ستفرج عنهم إسرائيل والذين تم اعتقالهم بعد 7 أكتوبر منذ عامين وحتى الآن. إذا مشاهدينا هذه الصور أيضا الجانب الآخر خروج الرهائن من قطاع غزة. إذا كان الإعلام الإسرائيلي.
All right, so yeah, we're gonna go ahead and mute that. We don't know what she's saying. I exited out. What did I just do? Let me go back to that page. All right. As you see, we have vehicles, military vehicles, facilitating the transfer of the hostages. The prisoners making their way back. It's a good sign. As we know, we don't want war in the world, right? It's not good for either side, right? Because especially with America being involved, Israel being our ally, unfortunately, we have to support them and protect them. In my opinion, unrightfully, we don't need to be protecting them, using our resources on Israel as much as we do. Okay, because we really don't get much benefit from it other than them being in our government, running most of our government, running most businesses and tech companies and sports franchises and record company labels, and it goes on and on and on. They don't make up a huge majority of the world's population, but they sure do run most of the world, right? As we know. So let's see, Israel, that is. Let's see what else they have on this. I keep right clicking, unfortunately. All right. So we have here Israeli hostage Omri Moran's family watches as he is being transferred to the IDF. Okay. Some Jewish people here celebrating the return. His family celebrating. All right. I gotta quit right clicking. All right. Also, for this topic, I keep right clicking, man. Gotta stop that. Gotta. Boom. And it does it again. There we go. All right. So here we have hostage Elon Ohel is on the helicopter en route to Belinson Hospital in Israel. Okay. Hostages being returned. Here we have a bus carrying Palestinian hostages arriving at Israel's Reem military base. They will now be transferred by helicopter as part of the ongoing exchange deal with Hamas. Okay. All right. Hostages being transferred. Traders predict only a 37% chance that Hamas will agree to disarm this year. Okay, so if you want to make a bet, you can go and predict whether or not you think this will last, or if we think that this will this disarmament will continue. We have here Trump doubling down on the war in Gaza being over when asked by a reporter at the Knesset whether the war is now officially over. Donald Trump gave a one-word answer: yes. Simple enough. All right. Let's see. Let's hear it.
Thank you. Is the war now officially over? Do you have any message, Mr. President?
Yes, nice and simple. Next slide here we have President Trump met with the hostages of the families after all 20 living hostages were released by Hamas. And they are, thanking him. In quotes, I want to sincerely thank you. Okay. So Trump getting praised big time for this negotiation process. We have here President Trump signing a message to Knesset stating that this is my great honor, a great and beautiful day, a new beginning. Okay. And let's give it some volume, see if he says anything.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, not much going on there besides some signing that message. Let's see what else they have to say on this. We have a Knesset speaker, Amar Ohana, calling Trump a giant of Jewish history, akin to Cyrus the Great, not just another American president. All right, let's give it some volume here.
President, but as a giant of Jewish history, one for whom we must look back 2.5 millennia into the mists of time to find a parallel, Cyrus the Great. You, President Donald J. Trump, are a colossus who will be enshrined in the pantheon of history. Thousands of years from now, Mr. President, the Jewish people will remember you. We are a nation that remembers. Far from being a local struggle, what we are witnessing is a global struggle, a global battle between the forces of extremism, radicalism, and fundamentalism, and those of freedom, liberty, and democracy. What the world needs now is not you stand before the people of Israel, not
Trump getting his praise and all of this. Here we have a giant sign thanking President Trump on the beaches of Tel Aviv upon the arrival of Air Force One. Okay. So, as we know, we are one of Israel's biggest allies, and we do a lot for them, including giving them lots of resources, firearms, and lots of trade. And in return, what we get as American people, I don't really know. Okay, I'm American first. I consider myself a American national. America first, America always. But we sure do babysit the rest of the world, right? As a country. Whether or not that will pay off for us long term is to be determined. All right. So more of the latest news before we get into our main topics of the episode here from ABC News. We have the final escaped New Orleans inmate in custody following the brief standoff from police. Okay, so earlier this year, we had 10 inmates escape a prison in New Orleans. One of those being Derrick Groves, who is the last inmate to be captured. Okay, so he's the final escapee in custody now. Here we have him 5 months after his brazen jailbreak. 5 months after 10 inmates escaped from a New Orleans jail, the final escapee, who was a convicted double murderer, is back in custody. Okay, so he had a nice little 5-month run here. Apparently, he wasn't able to escape permanently. You know, he wasn't able to make a disguise or, you know, move to, you know, Puerto Rico or, you know, Cuba or whatever, make his way out of the country, which most people probably thought he would have done by now. But he's caught here in Atlanta, and from what I know, he was actually the only reason he was caught, rather, was because his girlfriend and him were having an argument, and then she called the police on him, and they were able to detain him. So we have a video here. Fair use, of course, the ABC News. Let's see what's going on.
The arrest tonight after 5 months on the run. The suspect, convicted of double murder, the last of 10 escapees to break out of that jail in New Orleans, found several states away. And tonight you're going to see the images of the standoff. Authorities actually using gas canisters to move him through the house to arrest him. Here's Faith Abube.
Tonight, 5 months after a brazen jailbreak in New Orleans, a convicted double murderer now captured at this home in Atlanta, ending a multi-state manhunt. SWAT teams surrounding 28-year-old Derrick Groves, the last of 10 escapees, a tip leading to an hours-long standoff.
We deployed a number of canisters of gas to help move him throughout the house.
A police canine finding the murderer in a makeshift crawl space, according to officials. This was the dramatic scene back in May. Stunning surveillance video showing those 10 inmates escaping. Officials say they opened a faulty cell door, ripped a toilet off the wall, squeezed through a gap, and left this taunting message scribbled above the hole. Too easy. Tonight, authorities grateful no one was hurt.
And David, Groves will be transferred to Louisiana to face more charges.
Okay, so now that he is in custody, if I was him, I would have just, you know, tried to stay out as long as possible. You know, try to get my identity changed somehow. You know, have plastic surgery. But now I believe they're gonna lock him under the jail. Right? He is never probably gonna see daylight again. Unfortunately, I saw a lot of people sympathizing with him and his story on the internet, because apparently he was the reason he had a double murder charge is because he was killing individuals involved with the death of his grandmother, and one of those individuals, or some of them, happened to be police officers, right? So it's not looking good for him in this case. You know, in my opinion, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who he was killing, right? I don't believe in that victim mindset, right? If he killed people, he killed people, right? He's a murderer. I don't care what the reason was. You know, you need to take accountability and you know, deal with the consequences of your actions, right? So let's read on here. The last of 10 inmates who had been on the 1 a.m. following a New Orleans jailbreak in May has been captured. Derrick Groves, 28, was apprehended following a brief standoff in Atlanta. Louisiana State Police stated. Let's scroll down a little bit here. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Drop a W's in the chat if you are rocking with the Stormcast today. So the capture involved a coordinated effort that included the U.S. Marshals Service, the FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, Louisiana State Police, the New Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, the New Orleans Police Department, the Atlanta Police Department, Crime Stoppers Greater New Orleans, and other agencies. Okay, so everybody after this man, and they got him. All right, so tips to Crime Stoppers led authorities to the house in Southwest Atlanta on Wednesday morning as he was arrested in a crawl space 2 to 3 hours later, according to the U.S. Marshals New Orleans Task Force. The Atlanta Police Department's SWAT team deployed a number of canisters of gas to help move him throughout the house, and Groves moved to the basement, Atlanta Police Deputy Chief Kelly Collier told reporters. A police canine located Groves in a crawl space, according to Collier. He had minor scrapes, but otherwise no one was injured, authorities stated. Groves is one of 10 inmates who authorities said brazenly escaped from the New Orleans Justice Center in the early morning hours of May 16th after climbing through a hole behind a toilet. Their disappearance was not noticed for several hours and touched off a massive manhunt. Groves was convicted last year of 2 counts of second-degree murder in a 2018 Mardi Gras Day shooting and faces a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Okay, I didn't know he was in there for life, but there, you know, he's not getting out and he's probably not going to see daylight again at this point. Okay, so unrelated to the case, he also subsequently pleaded guilty on 2 counts of manslaughter, online court records stated. Okay, let's scroll down here. Here we have him caught by the Atlanta police in some shorts, no clothes on. Looks like he was chilling until those police showed up at his door. Groves' escape represented a serious breach of public safety and a historic failure of custodial security. Orleans Parish District Attorney Jason Williams said in a statement on Wednesday, his capture brings long-awaited calm to victims, their families, the witnesses who testified, the assistant district attorneys who prosecuted him, and the people of New Orleans who were rightly concerned that a convicted violent offender had escaped so easily and evaded justice for so long. Williams added his office will pursue every available legal avenue to ensure that Derrick Groves answers for every crime he has committed and every consequence he has sought to avoid. Louisiana Attorney General Liz Morrell also said Wednesday that Groves now faces charges for his role in the escape, and I will ensure that he is prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Okay, so these here being the 10 inmates that escaped earlier this year, and now they have all been captured. Okay, so you can now sleep, rest easy now that you know that there is no longer criminals among you, or escaped criminals rather. Of course, there's always going to be criminals. You never know who's a criminal. So that's enough of that. Now that we know that Derrick Groves, the last escapee, has been arrested, let's move on to our next piece of news. Here we have a white couple adopts 5 black children to use as slaves. Okay, this coming from AP News. And when I saw this, the title of this article, of this piece of news, I was I was like, yeah, this is going to be a great one to read up on. I haven't read much about it. I like to react live with you guys, of course. But let's see what's going on here. We have teenager describes tumultuous life at trial of adoptive parents accused of neglect and forced labor. Okay. So here, let's actually look at the pictures. Scroll back up here a little bit and look at some of the pictures. Okay, so this first picture, we have defendants Donald Lance and Jeanne Whitefeather enter Kanawha Circuit Court Judge Mary Claire Akers courtroom with Kanawha County Sheriff Deputy Matthew Dinges for the first day of their trial, Tuesday, January 14, 2025, in Charleston, West Virginia. Okay, following jury selection. Okay, so this was earlier this year, but I hadn't heard about it. Y'all let me know if y'all knew about this case. Pretty wild case. We have here Kanawha County Assistant Prosecutor Madison Tuck giving the prosecutor's opening statement to the jury on the first day of the trial of Donald Lance and Jeanne Whitefeather in Kanawha County Circuit Court Judge Mary Claire Akers courtroom. Okay. Last little picture for this slide, we have Donald Ray Lance on the left and Jeanne K. Whitefeather are shown, Jeanne being on the right here at the bottom. They are shown during a break in Kanawha County Circuit Court on the first day of their trial in Charleston, West Virginia. All right. The couple facing multiple charges after two of their adopted children were found locked in an outbuilding in October 2023. Oh, wow. Okay, so they had them locked up. Okay, so this being disturbing because, these are people that are supposed to adopt these children and raise them to have a better life, right? A life that, bring them, a better, lifestyle. So let's read on here. Charleston, West Virginia, AP, a teenager whose discovery in a locked shed led to the arrest of her adoptive parents, testified Friday that she and her siblings lived tumultuous lives in substandard conditions, including being forced to sleep on the floor and use buckets as toilets. The oldest daughter's testimony wrapped the first week in the trial of Jeanne K. Whitefeather and Donald Ray Lance, who are accused of mistreating their 5 adopted children, all of whom are Black. Whitefeather and Lance, who are white, each face more than a dozen felony counts that include forced labor, civil rights violations, and human trafficking and gross child neglect. Okay, so this happened earlier this year, as we know. So during the couple's arraignment last June, Kanawha County Circuit Judge Mary Claire Akers said the indictment alleged the children were used as, quote, slaves. Facebook messages seeking comment from attorneys for the couple weren't immediately returned Friday night. Okay, so, this, we need a more soundproof and a better system of checking these individuals' backgrounds, mental health, so on and so forth, right? You can't just let anybody out here just adopt children, okay? And, especially when there's a race difference, you got to be careful because things like this might happen, right? Let's read on. On the stand, the daughter, now 18, was the first sibling to testify. She described a difficult life over the course of years following their adoption. Judge Akers, ordered news outlets to not publish the teen's name. The children were made to stand in their rooms for hours to prevent them from falling asleep, she testified. They also were told to keep their hands on their heads, and Whitefeather would often use pepper spray on them if they didn't, the teenager says. It would be the entire day, then go to sleep and do it again the next day, she says. During her testimony, the teenager described photos shown of the home in which she said Lance yelled at one of the children for not listening and hit the boy on the head with a PVC pipe. The oldest sibling said the children were cursed at all the time, especially by Whitefeather, who used racially divisive language, right? Racially ambiguous language. The oldest sibling said the children we just read that. The couple also adopted the 5 siblings while living in Minnesota. They moved to a farm in Washington State in 2018 before moving again to West Virginia in 2023 when the children ranged from age 5 to 16. Okay. So these individuals apparently trying to bring back slavery, it would seem, right? Very disturbing case we have here. Let's read on. A financial intelligence analyst who reviewed bank statements, my voice just cracked there, testified Friday that Lance and Whitefeather pocketed $318,000 in child assistance, a loan from the state of Minnesota. Wow. Whitefeather and Lance were arrested in October 23 when neighbors called police to report seeing Lance lock the oldest girl and her teenage brother in the shed and leave the property. All 5 children were placed under the care of Child Protective Services. The teenage daughter said she currently speaks to her siblings once a week, but doesn't live with them or get to see them. The teenager said the children were given a diet of peanut butter sandwiches at scheduled feedings, some that were left over from a previous meal. The children were not allowed to eat at other times if they were hungry, and only were allowed to drink water after they finished their meals. The daughter used a sleeping bag on the floor, while her teenage brother slept on the bare floor with only a piece of cardboard as a pillow. The children rarely bathed. The daughter said she went about 2 months without showering or brushing her teeth. So awful conditions these 2 individuals subjected these young children to. Very sinister, very dark world, very dark times we're living in. Let's read on. She also says she wasn't provided menstrual products, even though she asked Whitefeather for them. Lance dropped off food to the children in their rooms and handled their daily chores, which included carrying supplies, gardening, digging holes for trees, clearing land, gathering water from a creek, and looking after the animals on their farm. Okay, so the teenagers said some of the children were forced to use their hands for digging. Okay, so we have, slave-like labor being, projected onto the children. She said the outdoor work occurred mostly on a farm in Washington. Those tasks stopped in West Virginia when neighbors observed the children standing in line or performing hard labor. The children mostly stayed indoors afterward. By then, Jean wasn't saying anything to me, the teen says. We were almost locked up. She said the door to the shed where she and her brother slept and were kept in when Whitefeather and Lance left was locked with a key required to open it from either side. Okay, this sounding like a Lifetime movie, right? She says she wouldn't have left the door open. Let's read this sentence over, okay? She said she wouldn't have left it if the door wasn't locked because she was afraid her siblings would bear the brunt of any ensuing punishment from Whitefeather, okay? So not only were they locked up, but they were afraid of escaping because they didn't want, punishment to be inflicted on the other siblings, okay? Let's read on here. Attorneys in the case have said the oldest boy had attempted to run away from the home and that the lock on the shed was aimed at keeping him from trying it again. A video surveillance system was installed because Jean said she didn't trust them. The daughter testified She told us to stop being stupid. The daughter said she ran away from home too when the family finally lived in Washington. She says, I felt like I wasn't ever going to get out of that situation. She returned after 2 days. Okay, interesting that she returned and didn't, alert the authorities of what was going on. Just prior to the couple's arrest, the teen and the oldest boy shared a room, including the same bucket for using the bathroom, while the other children held up a sheet for privacy. Okay, barbaric conditions these children were subjected to. It just enrages you to hear things like this, right? It just makes you want the worst possible sentencing and treatment for the parents, for these two individuals in this case. Let's read on. When the family lived in Washington, the daughter said the children were made to sleep in tents on a hill because Whitefeather said they were too dirty and that they stunk. She said Whitefeather used the same reasoning in not using the same dishes that the children used. The teenager said she attended public school in Washington until the start of COVID-19 pandemic, but received no formal education after arriving in West Virginia. She said Whitefeather gave preferential treatment to the youngest child, who was 5. Whitefeather had told the other children that she wished for a life without them. She would tell us all the time she wanted to go with the youngest girl without the rest of them, and how they are wasting time on them because we would never amount to anything, the teenager said. All right, so let me know down below what you think of this case so far. Pretty disturbing to hear of if you haven't heard of this already. And if you had heard of this, what do you think? I don't know the sentencing of these individuals, or if they have been sentenced, or what's the case. I will keep you updated on the latest on that. Okay, so we have even more news before we get into our main topics of this episode. Go ahead and drop a like down below for the long podcast we have today. Plenty of topics, plenty of interesting news, and just keeping you guys updated here on the StormCast. All right, next piece of news we have is a Tennessee plant explodes, leaving no survivors. This coming from ABC 7 Eyewitness News. A great loss. No survivors from blast at Tennessee explosives plant, sheriff says. And this was Saturday, October 11th. So last Saturday is when this happened. We have a video here. Let's open it up. Give it some volume. And we'll start it over.
It's 7:45. Residents of this small rural community about 60 miles west of Nashville coming together to remember the missing from Friday's tragic explosion. The massive blast happened at 7:45 Friday morning at Accurate Energetic Systems, a facility with 80 employees that manufactured explosives. Rescue crews searched for survivors throughout the night, but officials now say they're working under the assumption that no one in the building survived the explosion.
We've had more than probably 300 people. It's done very delicate, very methodical things inside the scene. And at this time, we have recovered no survivors. It's a great loss to our communities.
The building completely leveled by the blast, cars in the parking lot charred. The explosion felt for miles. This Ring camera shows the shaking 11 miles away from the plant. Debris landing in Lauren Rourke's yard 4 miles away.
The whole house shook. I looked out my bedroom window and I could just see all kinds of insulation debris just falling down. It's all over our yard, all around the house.
Multiple agencies, including the FBI, ATF, and Homeland Security, are on scene as investigators work to determine what caused this deadly explosion. Officials stress the investigation will take time.
We were already going slow, and now we're slowing things down even more. just for safety for everybody.
Officials say the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is using rapid DNA technology to process the scene so families can be notified.
Okay, so
welcome back, everyone.
All right, very unfortunate for those out there that in Tennessee at that plant, that explosives plant, that were working that day, losing their lives. As we heard, there was a shockwave felt 11 miles away, right? So there's no possible way that there could have been survivors, because this is almost like an atomic blast, right? Explosive, instant death, vaporizing within seconds, milliseconds of the explosion. So let's go ahead and read on here. From McEwen, Tennessee, we have workers who were inside a Tennessee explosive manufacturing plant at the time of a devastating blast on Friday are presumed to be dead, authorities announced on Saturday. The explosion occurred Friday morning at Accurate Energetic Systems in McEwen, Tennessee, located about 50 miles west of Nashville. During a press conference on Saturday, Humphreys County Sheriff Chris Davis said officials have not recovered any survivors, and the search has now transitioned into a recovery effort. It's a great loss to our communities, Davis says, while holding back tears, adding, "At this time, I would say we are dealing with remains." Okay, so these people got absolutely obliterated at the time of this explosion. And that's, the risk you take of working at these type of facilities, right? Whether it be a nuclear plant or any type of energy plant. There is always a risk of, something catastrophic like this happening, an explosion, and so forth. So Davis said officials are now in the process of identifying the remains. All right, you read that. Let's scroll down here a bit. I've been right clicking all day. That's going to be the death of me. Let's just use this arrow. That's a lot easier. All right. So we have, as we get into this, we find it more devastating than we thought initially, he said. Officials said Saturday evening that 16 people are now assumed dead as a result of the explosion. Previously, officials stated that 18 people were unaccounted for after the blast, according to a statement from Humphreys County Emergency Management Agency. Officials determined Saturday that 2 workers were not on site at the time of the explosion. I know those 2 workers are, thanking God right now. Davis told reporters Friday, "It's probably been one of the most devastating situations that I've been on in my career." He later said regarding the missing individuals, "I always wish for the best. Is there a possibility that someone might be injured somewhere or somebody that we don't know about?" Yes. Okay, interesting. So that they're thinking that there could possibly still be survivors. I don't, common sense says that everyone who was around that general location of the explosion is no longer here. Okay, so 4 to 5 people were brought to hospitals, according to the sheriff, who did not detail their injuries. Asked to describe the building where the explosion occurred, Davis says, "There's nothing to describe. It's gone." The sheriff said during an earlier briefing that this is a very big investigation. This is not going to be something that we're going to be, that's going to be like a car wreck or something like that, that we're going to clean up the debris and leave. We're going to probably be here for a few days, okay? And he continues, "We're trying to take as much time as is needed right now. We're prioritizing people that are involved, the families, and trying to be very compassionate towards them." Okay, so very devastating piece of news we have here. A lot of wild stuff today here on the podcast that we're reacting to. Okay, wild times that we are living in. Next up, we have immigrants are leaving. Okay, so 2 million illegal immigrants have left the U.S. in less than 250 days, according to the DHS. And before we read more, I'm assuming that this has to do with the election of Donald Trump, right? We have, as we know and have reacted to, a lot of the ICE raids going on around the country. A lot of people across the country getting, shackled up and deported. They are cracking down on illegals, and this is what Donald Trump, this was one of his campaign promises, right? That he's gonna fix the border and get rid of the illegals and make the country, quote unquote safer, right? Whether or not illegals are, making our country less safe is a different topic of discussion. Personally, I don't feel too bad about illegal immigrants being detained, right? Because they are unaccounted for civilians, and if these people were to say, commit a crime or harm someone, they are unaccounted for and undocumented, and we would have no way of tracing them. Okay, that's my based rational take on it. You may disagree or agree. Let me know down below your thoughts on it. We'll read on though. According to the Department of Homeland Security, 2 million illegal immigrants have left the United States in less than 250 days. Officials cite increased enforcement measures, legal pressure, and shifting border policies as contributing factors. The large-scale departures mark one of the most significant immigration shifts in recent years. Reports indicate that many individuals chose to leave voluntarily due to growing uncertainty about their legal status and limited access to resources. Okay, so funny how once you start cracking down on illegals in the country, a lot of people who are undocumented or illegal go ahead and voluntarily give themselves up, right, in fear of someone showing up at their door and taking them away and deporting them in that way, right? So Donald Trump and the ICE agents apparently striking fear in a lot of illegals' hearts and minds across the country. This development has sparked debate across political lines, with some praising the enforcement while others raise concerns about humanitarian consequences and labor shortages in key industries. The issue remains one of the most divisive in U.S. politics today. Okay, so we have on the one hand, people wanting them gone for multiple reasons, and then you have some people wanting them to stay because they claim that it'd be a violation of rights, or that they're not going to have workers to tend to their fields and their land, or fix their homes or roofs. I'm all for legal immigration. I'm all for immigrants to come here rightfully and gain status here in the great country of the United States. But I'm all for it being done right, and legally. And so enough on that. Our next piece of news we have before our main topics, we have an African king makes grand entrance in Abu Dhabi with 15 wives, 30 children, and 100 servants. Okay. Footage of King Miswati III's extravagant arrival in Abu Dhabi has resurfaced, drawing fresh scrutiny over the monarch's opulent lifestyle, reportedly traveling with 15 wives, 30 children, and more than 100 attendants. The scene has reignited long-standing criticism of excess at the top, while many in Eswatini face daily hardship. Okay, so the king is going to have his concubines, right? We read that in the Bible. We know that. And he's being fruitful, as the Bible instructs. Not that I'm the most religious or righteous man myself, but this is, what God intended us to do, is to have wives and multiply and spread our seed, right? So it's exactly what this man is doing, and I can't hate on him too much. Okay, let's read on here. With nearly 60% of the population living below the poverty line, the stark contrast between the king's wealth and his country's economic reality has fueled renewed debate about leadership, accountability, and inequality in the small Southern African kingdom. And yeah, I don't see what there is to debate here. This is always how it's been. There's always been kings, and then there's always been, the peasant class, right? There's always going to be those at the top, and those, unfortunately, who will never make the top. There's not really too much to react about that there. I mean, the king is doing what the king does, and that's pretty much all I have to say on that. Y'all let me know down below whether you think this is too excessive or crazy. Obviously, to American standards, we have beliefs of monogamy and a one woman, one man household and things of that nature, which I really don't necessarily believe in personally. I believe in, if a man is able to provide for all 15 wives, which obviously he's able to do, he also has 100, servants, he should be able to do this in his lifetime, right? He is the king. And telling this man that he is not able to do this, well, that's just stupid, right? It's just, absurd. All right, so our next piece of news we have here on the StormCast is 1 in 3 women. No, scratch that. That is the next news topic. First, before that, we have at age 27, parents expect more of their children. Okay, so 27 is the age parents expect their children to stop relying on them for money. Here on Intel's on Instagram, we have also, if you haven't already followed me on Instagram, go ahead and do that at ICYMICK, ICYMICK, and follow along. I post about the StormCast often. We also have a StormCast page as well at the StormCast. Okay, so let's read on here. Parents expect their children to achieve financial independence by age 27. According to a recent survey, this study revealed that many parents feel this age strikes a balance between education, career building, and personal responsibility. However, rising living costs have made this milestone increasingly difficult for young adults to reach. Okay. And maybe 10, 20 years ago, this may have seemed attainable for a lot of people, but I feel like as the years go by and cost of living increases, inflation increases, economic pressures and things of that nature increase, this is going to become more and more difficult for people. Okay, whereas before people were having whole families, homes, jobs, careers at age 27. Now more and more we see people, still living with their parents at age 27, still figuring out their lives, maybe piled with student debt, which I believe is a scam, especially if you don't get a degree in something that is in the STEM field, science, technology, engineering, and math. A lot of these degrees are pointless, and you're gonna bury yourself in debt, which makes you a slave to the government system until you pay it back, right? So economic pressures such as student loans, inflated rents, and stagnant wages have delayed financial independence for millions of millennials and Gen Z. Many parents continue to provide financial support into their children's late 20s, often covering essentials like housing, healthcare, or transportation. So, the gap between expectations and reality underscores broader financial struggles faced by young people. While independence at age 27 may be an ideal, the actual average is trending higher and higher as economic challenges continue to reshape adulthood milestones. All right, so let's see what the chat, some of the comments have to say on this. This guy says, Paul William Smart, shout out to him. He says, it was 18 for me and my siblings. At 27, I owned a home, a business, and was totally self-reliant. Okay. This person, Marcox Tawny, he says, my parents supported me well past this age, and I'll do the same for my children. America glorifies this idea of hyper-independence, which is a big reason so many Americans can't even afford a $1,000 emergency. Meanwhile, look at many foreign households. They build wealth through generational living and community. That's the key. Buy your child a house as an investment if you can. If you can't, let them stay home rent-free while teaching them about financial literacy and investing. The goal should be to give your children a strong foundation, not throw them to the wolves at 18 with $2,000 rent and a lifetime of debt. The wealthy already understand this. Everyone else should too. And he does bring up a good point. A lot of foreign countries, and it is, you know, it's pretty much custom that they live with their parents until they become financially independent, and then they move out. But here in America, we have a belief that at age 18, you are a grown adult and you're no longer under your parents' you know, responsibility. So I want you guys to let me know down below. I have mixed thoughts on this. On the one hand, I do believe you should have worked hard enough and push yourself and grind it to where you can be independent enough to not have to rely on your parents at age 27. But you know, depending on where you live, depending on, you know, your social class, your education, this can all be you know, variable for many people, right? It can be different for each independent person. And so the next piece of news, which I hinted to a little bit earlier, is that 1 in 3 women are mentally insane, according to studies. So a study claims 1 in 3 of every woman is mentally insane. A controversial study circulating online has claimed that 1 in every 3 girls are mentally insane, triggering widespread backlash from mental health professionals, educators, and women's rights advocates. Okay, so this piece of data being new to me and very interesting. I did know that or I've read before that 1 in every 100 people are diagnosed psychotic, schizophrenic, and a psychopath. But I did not know every 3 women are mentally insane. So this comment says, so 2 out of 3 are undiagnosed. Hilarious. Next guy says 3 in 3. Okay. So yeah. Wild to believe every 3. You know, I do believe there are a lot of crazy women out there, a lot of crazy men as well. But yeah, you take that as you will. Take it with a grain of salt, and let me know what your experience has been on that. Okay, moving on for our first topic of today's episode. We had a lot of news there. Drop me a like for all that news, for me updating you on what's going on around the world. Now we're going to get into some of the interesting topics that I saw and wanted to react to. Okay, so we have the longest surviving animals. Okay, so these are the animals older than dinosaurs that are still alive today. Okay, so Earth's oldest living fossils, dinosaurs. Long before dinosaurs ruled the planet, these creatures were already here, and many have barely changed since. They've survived mass extinctions, climate shifts, and still thrive today. So first animal up here on our list, we have ants. Ants being 120 million years old. And I love ants. I like to, well, I don't like them in my yard, but I do like to, read up on them and, see how they, they're very, very interesting animal in my opinion. How they work as a colony, how they, how they can, communicate with each other from across, various regions of the world. They're very actually, intellectual pieces, specimens, I should say. The colony is, we can learn a lot from ants, right? How they work together and how they work as a society. Next up on our list of oldest and longest surviving animals, we have snakes at 140 million years old. These I do not like too much. I've never been a fan of snakes personally. Yeah, I've touched a snake before, and never again. Just they feel weird. Although I do respect them, I love all animals. I just can't get with snakes personally. Next on our list, we have crabs coming in at 200 million years old. Okay, so what can you say about crabs? Cool animal, funny animal. It's got his claws and it walks around all funny and whatnot, but very old. I didn't know, very old animal. Next up, we have turtles coming in at 230 million years old. All right, so we have a lot of reptiles on this list. Seems to be reptiles and insects mostly that are going to be on this list. Next up, we have crocodiles coming in at 240 million years old. Okay, so I did know this one. I knew crocodiles were, they've been here since forever. And as we know now, it's 240 million years old. All right. These animals being so primal, you notice a lot of these animals on this list are going to be very primal animals that you cannot, tame or, domesticate. Next up on our list, we have cockroaches coming in at 300 million years old. One of my least favorite specimens, animals. What can you say about cockroaches? They're not, you never want to find a cockroach in your house. And these things can survive pretty much anywhere, any climate, all around the world, and they survive. These are survivors for sure. And what's crazy about cockroaches is it doesn't matter how clean your home is. It doesn't matter how, pristine you keep your house. You will find a cockroach in your house no matter what. It does not matter. Next on our list, we have sharks coming in at 400 million years old. All right. So sharks being here forever. Another primal animal on our list. After that, next up, we have starfish coming in at 450 million years old. Who can hate on a starfish, right? Patrick the Star, cool animals, survivors. And last on our list, we have the notulus coming in at 500 million years old. Okay, so all of these animals having survived, mass extinctions, climate shifts, and still thriving today. That's pretty incredible. And hat goes off to those animals, those survivors right there. All right. Coming up next, our next topic of the StormCast, we've got trans inmates transferred back to their rightful prison. Okay, so transgender women inmates will be transferred to male prisons as ordered by President Trump. So you let me know what your thoughts on this are. President Trump's recent executive order has sparked intense debate after directing that transgender women be moved from women's prisons to men's facilities, while also restricting access to gender-affirming medical care. The order redefines federal recognition of sex strictly as male or female at birth, raising serious safety concerns for the thousands of transgender inmates in custody. Many advocates warn this could expose transgender women to greater risks of violence and strip them of essential health care. All right, so transgender women being males that have quote unquote transferred to being a woman. So once they get sent back to men's prisons, men in those prisons are going to have a absolute field day on these inmates, right? Let's read on. However, the story doesn't end there. Several federal judges have stepped in, blocking transfers and halting medical restrictions for many inmates through lawsuits. These court battles highlight not just a legal fight, but a human one about dignity, safety, and the rights of some of the most vulnerable people behind bars. And you know, you can have mixed feelings on this. Personally, you know, send them back, because a lot of these individuals who are in prison, they can, you know, claim to be transgender or even, you know, become transgender and then use that as an excuse to move to a women's prison, which they can still, you know, which can put those women at risk, right? So we're not thinking about, you know, the women in the women's prisons who have to deal with, you know, the vulnerability of having a man that calls himself a woman as a fellow inmate, right? This person comments, the male inmates are gonna love this for real, right? This person comments, the president that has common sense, us. Okay, so a lot of people here agreeing with this order. This person says, you want to be a guy and act like a chick? Hey, enjoy all the attention. All right, so it seems as though overwhelmingly the comment section is in approval with this. Donald Trump being the king of common sense. You know, just doing what he does. And I don't really have too much to say on that. Let's move on to our next topic. We've got Neuralink patients controls a robotic arm using his thoughts. Okay, I shared the wrong thing. So a Neuralink patient just controlled a robotic arm using only his thoughts. A Neuralink patient has just achieved something extraordinary, controlling a robotic arm using only his mind. Okay, so the breakthrough comes from Neuralink's latest brain implant telepathy, which captures signals from the brain's motor cortex, the region responsible for movement, and converts them into real-time commands for the robotic arm. The participant, Nick Ray, was diagnosed with ALS, a disease that progressively weakens muscle control. He volunteered for Neuralink's trials to advance the technology, saying that if ALS was the cost of helping humanity move forward, it was one he'd accept. Okay. In one moving moment, rather, from the video, Nick Ray says, "I'll be able to talk with my hands again." It's a powerful glimpse into how brain-computer interfaces are already transforming lives. So in, you know, previous podcasts, I've talked to you guys about how I actually volunteered for the Neuralink trials. I didn't go past the interview phase. I believe I had perhaps too much movement as a quadriplegic. They're working mainly on people who have no either, you know, control below the neck, it seems. And we've seen previous people, you know, have the Neuralink implant in their brain and it not working as intended. You know, perhaps they've been able to control, you know, mouses and play video games, but this is my first time seeing this, where a Neuralink patient is able to control a robotic arm using just his thoughts. And as you see here in the video, let's put some volume to it. looks pretty incredible. We have Nick right here, I assume.
Oh, this plate's microwave safe.
Pretty incredible. Pretty incredible there. He's bringing a cup to his mouth. You know, and this is just the beginning. This is just the early phases of this technology. We all know Neuralink being a company owned by Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur. And thank God that he's, you know, trying to innovate and, you know, push society further. This is big news, especially for the disabled community, and for those who have lost function of their limbs, this giving hope to a lot of those individuals. Here we have him with a, here, let's just give some volume.
The whole time, and probably like gesture wildly with it. You're like, you guys, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, when, here's the thing, so, like, I'll be able to talk with my hands again. So, listen, if we're all here tonight, I think.
Yeah, the arm gesticulating, I see it.
Oh, this plate's microwave safe.
Pretty incredible stuff there. We have Nick Ray, the Neuralink patient, picking up a cup and bringing it to his mouth using just his thoughts. This, you know, being very, you know, important to a person's independence after, you know, being diagnosed with something like ALS, you know, giving them that autonomy back and that control and that independence, right? So, you know, I'll keep you guys updated every time I see more and more, you know, news and updates going on around the world with Neuralink. That this being important topic to me because, you know, maybe perhaps one day it'll give me back my independence and allow me to use my limbs again. You know, after suffering a spinal cord injury 10 years ago, right, due to a football collision where I was going in to make a tackle on a receiver, and I was injured, right, and suffered a C4-5 incomplete spinal cord injury. So this being really important to me and really important for a lot of my followers who are also a part of the disabled community. All right, before we jump into our next piece of our next topic, rather, we have Maritza in the chat. She says, love from Chicago. Okay, love to Chicago. Shout out to Chicago in the chat. All right. Next, we have some AI news that I want to get into. So, backpacking off the topic of Neuralink, right? We're going to get into some AI news, which is also going to be very helpful to those in the disabled community and all around the world. You know, if you haven't already been up on AI at this point, then you're falling behind, right? Because it's constantly evolving, constantly adapting, and more AI resources are coming out that could, you know, very well help you. And a lot of things are being replaced with AI, right? Jobs, you know, you got AI robots coming out, and a lot of tools that are powered by AI at this point. All right. So here we have the Sora 2 is breaking the brains of everyone on the internet. Okay. So OpenAI Sora 2 is quite literally breaking the internet and changing how people perceive content. Its videos are racking up hundreds of millions of views across social media, with many people not realizing they're AI generated. It's a clear sign that AI video generation has reached a point where the line between AI created and traditionally produced content is getting harder to spot. The model excels at realistic cinematic and anime styles while keeping a consistent world state across multiple shots. A line between what's real and what's fake online is disappearing. All right, and I want you guys to let me know down below what you think of some of these videos that we are about to react to. Okay, so as you see here, we have some AI created videos. One being Michael Jackson on Instagram Live. We have, what's his name? The guy who in the wheelchair. Is that Stephen Hawking? Yeah, that's his name. Going down a wheelchair, a skate ramp and doing a backflip and crashing. And Tupac, coming back from the dead and making some content. Let's add some video to it.
Big pump coming up the wall. Launching 420 tailspin attempt. He loads it, can't find the sideways.
Your chicken's looking nice, pal.
Okay, so all of these videos are AI generated, mind you. All right, so yeah, let's get into it.
Yo, he stole my chicken. Got a crispy treasure, can't slow me down. Hot and golden, I'm mad at this town. Move, move, Friday victory. Well, get back here. Run, spin, slide, I'm gliding out the door. Fried love in my arms, can't give it up no more. Hey. Your chicken's looking nice, pal. Woo! Yo, he stole my chicken.
Yeah, Michael Jackson there.
Hawking rolling in, run two. Look at the speed building on that chair. He's locked
Big
in.
pump
coming up the wall. Launching 420 tailspin attempt. He loads it, can't find the sideways. Absolutely. Hawking rolling in.
All right.
Oh my God, there, Kelly, get inside. Oh, thank you, Kitty.
I'm coming. Grab the baby.
I got you, sweetheart. You're safe.
Ready?
Fire it.
Here we go.
Oh my God.
Lord have mercy.
She failed. Ha ha.
Ruby, you're all right.
Get her up. Get her up. She's laughing.
Ready?
Fire it.
Here we go.
Oh my God.
Just out here vibing in Havana, you feel me?
No way. Tupac, bro. Please sign my shirt.
All right, you got a pen?
Bro, it's actually you. What the fuck?
Let me see that. Appreciate you, man. Just out here vibing in Havana, you feel me?
Let's just ease our way down this little alley here. There we go. Ooh, looks like someone was waiting for us. We'll give him a happy little burst of light. That's better. Keep moving, keep breathing, and look at that view. Worth the... Let's just ease our way down this little alley here.
Listen, mathematically, the decision is irrational. I land the significant strikes with higher momentum, yes? Energy equals 1/2 mv squared. His mass is smaller, my velocity... Listen, mathematically, the decision is irrational. I land the significant strikes with higher momentum, yes?
Besties, welcome back to the Cozy Corner. Yeah, your boys in hearts today. Don't get it twisted. We're doing a little glow up. First things first, moisturize. Tap, tap, tap. Get that championship level hydration. How we lay the foundation. Boom, boom. Besties, welcome back to the Cozy Corner.
You stop resisting. No, you stop resisting. Both of you, quit resisting. Give me that wrist. Let go of mine first. Cuffs coming on. Stop moving. I'm not the one resisting. You are. You twisted my arm. Chill. Ow. Stop resisting. You stop resisting.
Hey, what's that man on that grassy knoll doing?
Looks like he's taking pictures, Jack.
Huh. Just wondering.
All right.
Hey, what's that man?
What's up, everybody? It's Mike, and tonight we're giving you the smoothest vibe in the game. This is our brand new Smooth Berry Thriller Zen.
And I'm bringing the heat with Mamba Mint.
Cool, clean, and clutch.
Just
2
like
for
we
12
like it.
only while we're live, so hit that. What's up, everybody? It's Mike, and tonight we're giving you the smoothest vibe in the game. This is...
All right, so let me know what your thoughts are on these and whether you're even able to tell whether or not they are AI generated or not. There's just, at this point, it just looks so real. A lot of people aren't going to even, if they don't know it's AI, they won't ever know that it is, right? So it's becoming so real. And other related AI news, we have fast food is about to get rid of all the employees. All right. Fast food is moving toward full automation. First, cashiers were replaced by screens. Now, even the drive-thru is run by AI. The next step, entire restaurants with 0 employees. The future of fast food might not involve people at all, just machines serving you from start to finish. All right, pretty interesting here. Yeah, so if you're, working a fast food job, you are getting slowly priced out, right? Your days are numbered. This person in the comments saying, no employees to harass, belittle, or fight with. Get your food and go. Okay. This person says, don't buy. It's that simple. Okay. So this person, there's always going to be people out there that want to fight the way of things, the way things are going, the way technology is pushing. But, if it makes it convenient, especially for these industries, for these companies, and it's more profitable, then there's nothing that you're going to be able to do, or, no amount of boycotting the company is going to, fix what is inevitable, which is the progression of AI. And this person says, this is what happens when people want $20 an hour to serve a burger that used to be so cheap. Everything has to go up, and then people are replaced, but the prices never go down. Okay, very good point. Very good point. People want cheap food. Well, you have to pay employees, right? So the company has to make some type of profit somewhere, and that's going to be replacing the employees. And these companies already, they don't care about you, right? You're just a cog in the wheel to them anyway. So replacing you is not going to mean anything to them, okay? So yeah, no point in resisting the inevitable. All right. And the next piece of AI news that we have is this AI device turns your dreams into movies while you sleep, okay? So we have the Dream Recorder is an open source device that captures and replays dreams as cinematic AI generated reels. It sits beside your bed, quietly recording brainwave activity while you sleep. Then, using a mix of neuroscience and generative AI, it interprets and reconstructs your subconscious thoughts into visual narratives. Okay, let me know down below, would you try this? Would you want people to see your dreams, know your dreams? Personally, I don't think I want my dreams recorded. I have a lot of dreams that probably shouldn't be seen or known by anyone else, right? I feel like it's kind of private, a lot of dreams I'd probably want to keep to myself. But you let me know whether you would want to watch your dreams. Pretty interesting here. Someone that says can wait for ads in my dreams. Yeah. And this person says, I remember every single, let's scroll down a little bit. He says, I remember every single dream. I would love to see if the AI is accurate. I know, right? I do. Like I said, I know a lot of my dreams. Recently, I've been dreaming a lot, right? And a lot of my dreams have been really wild, right? And I'm not sure if I want to share, what's going on a lot of times in my head, right? But it's here. The science is here. And as I just said, there's no point of fighting the inevitable, right? It's going to happen. People are going to want it. The technology is already here. So you might as well just go along with the process, if you will. All right. And to close out today's episode, let's wrap things up with one last topic. We've got no more Down syndrome. Okay, this coming from the Business Standard, titled Japanese Scientists Delete Extra Chromosome Behind Down Syndrome Using CRISPR. Okay, we know CRISPR as being a gene editing software that a lot of, people have already began to use. I believe Kylie Jenner, famously known for using this on her children. It's a technology which is, what would you say? Edits your genes, your chromosomes, your biological makeup. So this from July 28, 2025, led by Ryotaro Hashizumi at Me University, the research team demonstrated that CRISPR can be used to remove the extra copy of chromosome 21, the fundamental cause of Down syndrome. Okay, so a DNA double helix is seen in an updated artist illustration released by the National Human Genome Research Institute to Reuters on May 15th, 2012. Okay, so this being new news to me and probably to a lot of you out there as well. Let's read on. Japanese scientists have made a significant breakthrough in the fight against Down syndrome by using CRISPR gene editing technology to target the condition at its genetic root. Led by Ryotaro Hashizumi at Mi University research team demonstrated that CRISPR can be used to remove the extra copy of chromosome 21, the fundamental cause of Down syndrome. This surplus chromosome disrupts normal development, and until now, treatments have focused only on managing symptoms, not the underlying genetic duplication. The team's findings show that eliminating the additional chromosome in affected cells can restore more typical cellular behavior, marking a major step forward in potentially correcting the condition at its source, says Earth.com. Why an extra chromosome matters. Down syndrome affects about 1 in 700 newborns in the U.S. That added chromosome, known as trisomy 21, disrupts a range of important processes in the body, often resulting in learning difficulties, distinctive physical traits, and certain health conditions. Okay, we all know or may have a family member perhaps with Down syndrome. Okay, you know, and we're always gonna have people on one side, you know, that are completely with the science and you know, the advancement of technologies like this, and then on the other hand, we're gonna have those individuals who may state that, you know, perhaps this is unethical, immoral, perhaps, you know, maybe that they think we're, you know, playing God in a way. Personally, I feel as though if it's making the life of an individual better, improving their life and their families, you know, why not go for it, right? Just another case of just go with it, you know. This whole podcast has been just go with it. You know, just go with the technology and the advancement of the technology. No need of fighting it, right? Let's read on. This additional genetic copy raises gene activity above normal levels. It pushes cells to overwork because they carry extra material that shifts how genes are used and how proteins are made. So CRISPR and Down syndrome, what's the link? Let's read on. CRISPR-Cas9 is a versatile gene editing system that relies on an enzyme to recognize specific DNA sequences. Once the enzyme locates a matching site, it snips through the DNA strands. Scientists carefully design CRISPR guides to target only the unwanted chromosome. This track is called allele-specific editing, and it helps steer the cutting enzyme to the right spot. Okay, in college, you learn about alleles and genes and how they work in sequence. I do have my associate's degree in science, so that's really why this podcast is centered around a lot of science news and updates and things like this, because this is my main topic of study. I find it very interesting, and I want to bring these news topics and this interesting information out to my viewers as well. Let's read on. So scientists carefully designed CRISPR guides to target only the unwanted chromosome. Okay, we just read that. Here we have trisomic rescue via allele-specific multiple chromosome cleavage using CRISPR-Cas9 and trisomy 21 cells, wrote Hashizumi. Their group discovered that removing the unneeded copy often normalized gene expression in laboratory-grown cells. The treated cells reverted to typical patterns of protein manufacturing. They also showed better survival rates in certain tests, indicating that excess genetic burden was successfully relieved, right? So yeah, people with Down syndrome, I believe they usually typically have a shorter lifespan than most. So if we can, you know, prevent things like this happening to people, I see it as a good thing, as a positive piece of technology. Okay, so what's the potential for neurons and beyond? The technique is still far from clinical use, so it will not show up in routine care anytime soon. However, scientists are considering whether similar edits might be done in cells that form the brain and other tissues. The possibility of trimming excess genetic material in non-dividing cells is also intriguing. Many cells in the body do not actively divide after maturing, yet the team's findings suggest that these cells could still benefit from targeted chromosome removal. So let's read about the karyotype and brain-related genes. So in follow-up tests, researchers examined how gene activity changed after removing the extra chromosome. They noticed that genes tied to nervous system development became more active, while those linked to metabolism were dialed down. This shift in gene expression could help explain how correcting the chromosomal imbalance affects the cell's overall behavior. It also supports earlier findings that extra copies of chromosome 21 disrupt brain development during early fetal growth. Tested in both stem and skin cells, the researchers didn't just test their approach on lab-grown stem cells, they also applied it to skin fibroblasts, which are mature non-stem cells taken from people with Down syndrome. Even in these fully developed cells, the method successfully removed the extra chromosome in a significant number of cases. That result hints at a broader possibility for correcting the genetic issue in different cell types throughout the body. So let's read about the removal of improved cell health. After removing the extra chromosome, the corrected cells grew slightly faster and had a shorter doubling time compared to untreated trisomy cells. These changes suggest that getting rid of the surplus chromosome may ease the biological stress that slows down cell growth. The corrected cells also produced fewer reactive oxygen species, which are harmful byproducts linked to cell death, damage, and aging. Lower levels of these molecules point to improved mitochondrial function and a general boost in cell fitness. Some of the CRISPR cuts can affect healthy chromosomes, though. The researchers are addressing this by refining their guidance molecules so that they only latch onto the extra chromosome 21. They are also investigating ways to keep the cell's repair systems from reversing or age botching the intended edits. With more work, the method might become safer and more efficient for a wide range of tissues. So let's read about the implications of this and what it might mean for future treatments. Okay, if scientists confirm these early results in additional studies, they might one day design therapies that quiet the genetic overload at its source. This approach could apply to lab-grown tissues or stem cells aimed at regenerative treatments. And as we've known, as we've seen, I've dropped many videos where I've gotten stem cell injections. Although not a miracle cure, I definitely have seen health improvements and things of that nature. So while we are still researching stem cells and the implications of what they might have for individuals, this is looking good for those who may need future treatments or any other regenerative treatments. Okay, so experts emphasize that these findings do not guarantee a straightforward path to therapy. Still, the work highlights how CRISPR could assist in handling fundamental genetic hiccups and that cause common conditions. The project shows that CRISPR can remove an entire chromosome rather than making small fixes. That is a big jump in what genome editing can accomplish. Okay, so genome editing is, as I said before, is what I believe Kylie Jenner had with her children. I believe she had some type of CRISPR genome editing procedure. Fact check me if I'm wrong, but I do believe this is a true statement. Let's read on here. Researchers will likely continue analyzing the risks of widespread DNA changes. They will also check how these modified cells behave over longer periods and whether they stay healthy in real-world settings. This study published in PNAS Nexus. All right. Awesome episode there. That is our episode for today, folks. Appreciate all the viewers and everyone who joined me today. Also, everyone who joined me on the replay watching this. Shout out to you watching. With that being said, as always, the StormCast is available everywhere you find podcasts. So subscribe on YouTube, drop a 5-star review on Spotify for me, and follow on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter and Rumble. All of those links are going to be down below. Also, your support on Patreon keeps us going strong. We all know about the Patreon for the channel, which is a community of like-minded individuals. Also on there, you can get behind the scenes content that I can't necessarily post on any other platform. You can also request for content, and on there is a place where you can buy merch and ask questions, and we can communicate on there as a community. So it's a great place to support the podcast, if you will. Just again, thank you to everybody who tuned in for today's episode. Episodes of the StormCast live every Wednesday or Friday, depending on the schedule. But to stay updated, to know when we're going to go live, go ahead and hit that notification bell to get notified when we are going to go live and when I'm going to be dropping episodes and content. A lot of times YouTube won't always give out or show my content to even my subscribers. So it's important to hit that notification bell to get notified when I do drop content and when I am going live. All right. So with that said, let me know what you thought about today's topics, good or bad, what you want me to speak on in the next episode. If there's anything interesting that you saw that you want me to react to, perhaps hit me on Instagram at the StormCast or at IcyMick, my personal Instagram. Give me a follow on there. Hit me in the DMs. I respond to everybody. I respond to all comments. And just like that, I want to leave you guys with a quote of the day. Well, 2 quotes actually that I found inspiring, and maybe you can find it helpful in your life. Both coming from Confucius. One of them, the first one, is, "It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop." Okay, so what this means to me is, doesn't matter, what you got going on, how you're grinding and how slow you may be seeing results, as long as you keep going, and you remain disciplined in your focus and your task, and you remain locked in on your task. Maybe you're not seeing results immediately, but without a doubt, you will see results, right? And you will begin to gain traction, and positive things will happen to you. And the next quote from Confucius that I saw, that I found, inspirational to me, and maybe you will too, is that our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. Okay, so what this means to me is, in life, things are going to happen. Mistakes will happen. Accidents will happen. Perhaps, your girlfriend or your boyfriend breaks up with you, and it seems as though it's the end of the world, right? But it's not. You rise from every, delay or a problem and setback in your life, and you rise bigger, stronger, and better. So, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone who's tuned into today's episode, episode 36 of the StormCast, love you so much. Stay beautiful, stay blessed, and I will see you on the next episode. Goodbye, everybody. Let's go.